Greetings, my fellow Fright Fiends. It's your buddy Boogeyman Ben here for a new episode of Boogeyman Ben's Horror Zone, and this is part 8 of my Countdown to Halloween series, counting down my top 100 horror films of all time. Now we're getting down to the serious business, so now we are down to the top 30. So this video will be focusing on numbers 30 through 21. There is one double up on this one, and that is like I said in my last one, where I said that I consider Hannibal and Silence of the Lambs to be one story about Clarice Starling and Hannibal Lecter. So there is one in this series where I did double up on two films in a particular series. Like I said before, this is my countdown. I hope no one takes offense to this. Again, I'm not telling anybody to think any way. I'm not trying to change people's opinions. This just happens to be my opinion. So, without further ado, we're going to get into this with number 30 on my list. And this is going to go to a brand new film that just came out this year. I just recently saw it. I didn't get to see it in the movie theater. I missed it. It was being promoted as one of the scariest movies ever made. I always take that with a grain of salt when I hear it, because there's a lot of times that movies get overly hyped, especially by critics. That being said, this particular film did. In fact, it absolutely terrified me. It was a film that scared me more than anything I've seen recently, and it is Hereditary. Written and directed by first-time filmmaker Ari Aster. I don't want to talk in too great a detail about this because, again, I am covering several films in this segment. But this film absolutely terrified me, to the point of that after I watched it, I had to just process it. There are scenes in this film that scared me unlike anything I've seen in my adult life. I don't know why it got to me. I think it was because it was done very slow and methodically. It wasn't something that just leapt out at you. It was something that you were slowly drawn into, something that you would just see in the distance, and there were scenes that I just had to keep staring and going, am I really seeing this? Is this what I'm really seeing? It just really got me to my core. This film is fantastic in my opinion, and it takes a lot to really terrify me because I am so into the horror genre, and I've seen some of these films so many times they become a comfort for me. This film is a completely different beast, and one that I cannot recommend enough for anybody that has been curious about it or avoided it or thought it was overly hyped. This one, again, was kind of rejected by moviegoers who thought it was too slow and boring. I thought it was really well done. I thought every performance in this, and specifically Toni Collette, it blew me away, and I cannot wait to see what film Ari Aster will have as his follow-up. Just a fantastic film. Okay, number 29 is the one where I have two films that are fitting together. One of them was just released this year, the other one came out in 2008, and it is The Strangers and The Strangers Prey at Night. Both of these films are fantastic in my opinion, very different films, whereas this one is more a straightforward home invasion movie that has some amazing visuals and very slow building terror, very reminiscent of John Carpenter's Halloween. This one is a complete throwback to the 80s, films that I grew up loving. There's a lot of homages to The Fog, Christine, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Love both of these films so much, and I think they're terrific to watch back to back, and I just couldn't split them up on this list. Both of them are fantastic, and I love both of them equally. Number 28 on my list is going to go to Misery, directed by Rob Reiner and featuring my favorite actress of all time, Kathy Bates, and the amazing James Caan, as well as Frances Sturdhagen, and the late Lauren Bacall, and the late Richard Farnsworth. I remember when Misery came out, I was a junior in high school, and I remember I had this friend named Michelle. We had Earth Science together, and she told me about this film, that she had gone to see it with her boyfriend, and that it was just amazing, that Kathy Bates was so insane in this film. But I was really intrigued by this. I didn't get to see it until it came out on VHS, but this film is just so terrific, and Kathy Bates is just... you can't say enough great things about her as a performer. Her performance as Annie Wilkes is one of the greatest performances in movie history, in my opinion. She just brings so much personality and so much range and stages to that character, where she, just in terms of her mood swings, it's just seamless when she flies off the handle and then goes back to being sweet, or it's just, she's terrifying. And the fact that James Caan gives such a riveting performance, both of them work so well off each other, and Rob Reiner just did a terrific job on this film. It's my favorite movie by the director. Absolutely fantastic film, a complete tour de force by Kathy Bates. Can't say enough great things about this film. Number 27 on my list is going to go to From Dusk Till Dawn, directed by Robert Rodriguez, written by the amazing Quentin Tarantino, and starring George Clooney, Quentin Tarantino, Juliette Lewis, Harvey Keitel, Cheech Marin, Tom Savini, Fred Williamson, and of course the beautiful Salma Hayek. I still think it's one of the greatest vampire movies ever made, because this film is set up like a typical heist kidnapping movie, and then it turns into this very over-the-top crazy vampire film at the end, and it's just, there's no other film like this. Insane fun movie that I never get tired of watching. It's fantastic. One of the best ever made. Number 26 on my list is going to go to Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, a film that I have always loved, and a film that I never got the hate for. Yes, I know, it takes place mostly on a cruise ship. I think for the budget restraints that they had, they did a really good job and put out an excellent film. I think Kane Hodder, again, is fantastic as Jason in this film. I absolutely love him as the character. I love the character of Rennie. I think she is played very well by Jensen Daggett. I also like that it went back to talking about kind of like the myth of Jason, that he drowned as a little boy, and then you see that the Rennie character had an encounter with the undead Jason who was under Crystal Lake. There's just little things like that that I really love. I love the scene in Times Square. I love the scenes in the subway. I think the ending was really interesting if they were going to go that way. But yeah, I still had fun. I still remember seeing this with my friends, and they all hated it, and I was the only one that said I thought it was really good. So it's funny, all these years later, I mean, it came out 29 years ago, but even 29 years later, I still love it just as much as I did then. Number 25 on my list is going to go to Sinister. A film that absolutely terrified me to my core. Much like Hereditary, this was a film that I saw the trailers for. I thought it looked interesting. I was a fan of Ethan Hawke. I liked the concept of this crime novelist moving into a house where these murders have taken place, and him trying to solve the mystery of what happened to this family, where their missing daughter went, and then finding out that there is this sort of chain of events that have happened very similar to what has happened in the home that he is staying in around the country, and it's all tied to this deity named Bughuul. I just thought it was really well done. This movie is terrifying, just along with the way that it is shot by Scott Derrickson. The music in this by Christopher Young really adds to the overall tension of it. The fact that it's really dimly lit, there's not a lot of bright shots in this film. The home movie footage of these families being killed is something you just can't get out of your head. And I think Bughuul is a fantastic horror villain, one of the best that has been introduced in the 21st century. One of my absolute favorite recent horror films, and I think it's one of the scariest horror films to be released in the last 17 years. Number 24 on my list is going to go to James Wan's Dead Silence. This is my favorite film by James Wan. I think this movie just came out at the wrong time, because it came out at a time when the horror genre was going through its remake phase as well as its torture-esque phase. I hate saying torture porn, but I'll just say the types of films like Hostel and Saw and Turistas and Captivity and those kinds of films were the ones that were, you know, getting the attention from moviegoers. Dead Silence kind of just didn't connect, and I think this is a terrific film with a very scary antagonist in Mary Shaw. I love the whole concept. It reminds me of Freddy Krueger in Nightmare on Elm Street, the rhyme of Beware the Stare of Mary Shaw, which I think is still terrifying. And I love the look of this film. Very gothic, very dark. I love the different puppets that are in this, and I think the ending for this is shocking. It blew me away the first time I saw it. Anyone who's curious about checking it out, I definitely recommend it. Number 23 on my list is going to go to Secret Window, featuring one of my favorite actors of all time, Johnny Depp. One of my favorite Stephen King adaptations of all time. I don't know what it was about this film that really connected with me. I love the character of Mort Rainey and just what he's going through, where he's kind of isolated himself in this cabin. His wife is having an affair. He's just sort of depressed and just trying to lay low, and then this guy named John Shooter, played by the amazing John Turturro, shows up claiming that Mort has committed plagiarism and stole a story from him. And from there you have this cat and mouse game between the two characters, and I just think this film is brilliant. And I think it was executed brilliantly, and definitely recommend it to fans of Johnny Depp and Stephen King films. Number 22 on my list is going to go to Candyman, featuring one of my favorite actors of all time, Tony Todd, and featuring another actress that I'm a huge fan of, the lovely Virginia Madsen. Bernard Rose did a fantastic job directing this film. I haven't read the short story by Clive Barker called The Forbidden, but Candyman was a film that came out the year I graduated high school, and I still remember seeing it for the first time. It scared me so much that the first time I rented it and then I watched it, I actually took it back to the video store the same day. That's how much it freaked me out. And I don't know what it was. I think it's just the whole mythology. Again, similar to like Mary Shaw and Freddy Krueger, the whole thing with Candyman, if you say his name 5 times in a mirror, he will appear behind you. And just the idea of that. And the fact that Tony Todd played this character with no prosthetics. It was just him in an overcoat with the hook. And his voice and his presence are so well done in this film. And this was my first real exposure to Tony Todd. I had seen him in a couple of smaller things before this, but this was the first time I took notice of him. And it was very different because you have an African-American playing a horror villain, and I think he just does a brilliant job in this film. And his interactions with Virginia Madsen, who I was already a fan of, are fantastic. The scenes with the bees in this film, the fact that he really had live bees put in his mouth. The music by Philip Glass, it's this haunting, almost fairy tale sounding music, and I love the locale of it being the inner city at this place called Cabrini Green. Terrifying film, so many amazing visuals, a very, very intriguing story, and a truly haunting film that really, really has never left me. It still scares me to this day. Number 21 on my list is going to go to Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers. The very first Halloween film I ever saw in the movie theater. It came out, I was a freshman in high school when this movie came out, and I was so happy that they were bringing Michael Myers back. I was reading Fangoria magazine, and I saw over the summer there was the Terror type line, if people remember that, and it said that they were making a new Halloween film. There was a small featured story in one issue showing The Shape and Donald Pleasence, that Donald Pleasence was coming back as Dr. Loomis, who I was a huge fan of. Even at that age, I was 14 when this movie came out. And I just remember my mom taking me to see this, and I saw like some people in my high school in the audience when we went to see this film. And this was, like I said, first Halloween I got to see in the theater, so it always has a special place in my heart. But I think this is just such a well-executed film. Fantastic actress in Danielle Harris as Jamie Lloyd. I absolutely love Ellie Cornell as Rachel. I thought Beau Starr was fantastic as Ben Meeker. And you had 2 actors that did play Michael Myers in this. One of them was Tom Morga. He played him in a few scenes. He was actually replaced by George Wilbur a little bit into filming. I did get to meet George Wilbur at last year's Sinister Creature Con, and he did sign it, and I thought it was really cool. He put the thorn symbol right there. Awesome guy. It was really nice to meet him. But I love the way that Michael Myers looks in this. The mask has never bothered me. I actually really like the mask in this film for some reason. I don't know why people don't like it. But I love the atmosphere in this. The opening shot just really brings you into the fall season. Dwight Little did a fantastic job directing, and Alan B. McElroy wrote a fantastic screenplay. And I just think this is such a fantastic follow-up to Halloween's 1 and 2. The film just plays out beautifully, and that ending is still, I think, one of the greatest endings in horror movie history. Absolutely fantastic. Can't recommend this film enough. absolutely fantastic. So that is going to be it, fellow fiends. So we have two more videos counting down my top 20. I hope everyone is still enjoying this series. It seems like people still are. And like I said, you know, there are going to be some controversial choices that I've made, some things that are just my opinions. I hope people don't take offense to them. Again, this is my list, and I appreciate everyone keeping the comments respectful, but I do want to hear from everyone. Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about my choices. I really appreciate it. If you want to support what I do here on the channel, I'm trying to build the channel. I do have a Patreon page for Boogeyman Ben's Horror Zone. That is down below. I really want to keep all of this stuff free. I'm just trying to broaden the channel and get the word out there about what I'm doing. So again, Patreon link down below. Also have my social media links, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I really appreciate everyone taking the time to check those out and support me here. And stay tuned for some great stuff coming real soon. Thanks so much for watching. Take it easy. Stay scared. Peace.